In 1917, the United States Army hung 13 of its own soldiers, all at once, before sunrise. Their sentences hadn't even been announced to the public yet. No appeal, no review. The Army built the gallows overnight, took 13 black soldiers out there the next morning, and hanged them together. And then, 106 years later, the Army threw out their convictions, not just theirs. Every conviction connected to Camp Logan, all 110 of them. So what happened, right? The Army sends the 3rd Battalion of the 24th Infantry to Houston to guard the construction of Camp Logan. These are Buffalo soldiers, black men serving in the United States Army in Jim Crow, Texas. So the Army needs them in uniform. But Houston still expects them to be behind the segregation screen on the streetcar. And there had already been problems between the Houston police and the soldiers. Then, August 23rd happens. A police officer enters the home of a black woman named Sarah Travers while looking for someone else and drags her out partially dressed. Private Alonzo Edwards sees it and speaks up. The officer pistol whips him and arrests him. Corporal Charles Baltimore goes to figure out what happened. Baltimore is a military policeman. This is literally his job. Police beat him too, and an officer fires at him as he runs. Baltimore eventually gets back to camp. But before everybody knows he's alive, a rumor spreads that the police killed him. Then another rumor starts. A white mob is supposedly coming for the soldiers. And that night, more than 100 armed soldiers leave Camp Logan. And what happens next is awful. 4 black soldiers died. 16 people are killed, including civilians and police officers. Some of those people had nothing to do with what happened earlier. So yes, people needed to answer for that night. But look at how the Army decided who would. 64 black soldiers were put on trial at the same time. The largest murder trial in American history. All 64 men had one person defending them. Major Harry Greer had legal training, but he wasn't a practicing attorney and he had never tried a case. 13 men were sentenced to death, and the Army moved fast. December 11th, gallows built overnight. The men were taken out before sunrise. No appeal, no review from Washington. Their sentences hadn't even been announced publicly. The accounts say they sang a hymn as they walked to the gallows. All 13 were hanged together. Corporal Charles Baltimore was one of them. And here's what gets me. The outrage was so bad the Army changed its own rules afterward. Death sentences would now have to be reviewed before they were carried out. So they understood there was a problem. They made sure it couldn't happen again. But they left the men it had already happened to guilty. More trials followed, and by the end, 110 black soldiers were convicted. 19 were executed. 63 got life sentences. And not one white civilian was prosecuted. That's where these convictions stayed for more than a century, until November 2023. After years of work by descendants, historians, and military lawyers, the Army set aside all 110 convictions, every single one. The soldiers' records were corrected to read honorable discharge. 17 of the executed men eventually received new headstones with their proper military rank. But I just want you to think about those dates, right? The Army knew enough to change the rules in 1917. It took 106 years for them to go back to the men who showed them why those rules needed changing. They could correct the records. They could replace the headstones. They could finally write honorable next to their names. But they couldn't give them back the lives they took.